Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell, this is a little different. My cello is nowhere to be seen. It's just me. And that is because this is a very special video. But before we get started, quick introduction, in case you've never seen me before. If that is the case, then maybe stop right now and watch my videos so that you know roughly what my channel is about. And so now that you've done all that, hi, my name is Laia. I am a professional cellist and a cello teacher, and I really love video games. And one of the video games I love the most currently, well, have loved for the last 3 years, almost 3.5 years, is Genshin Impact. I started playing it in 2021, 4 days before the 2.0 update, and I will forever regret that I didn't pick it up a few weeks sooner, and thus I missed the first Golden Apple Archipelago event. Can't be helped. But since that day in July 2021, I've been playing pretty much every single day. The only days that I've missed was when I was literally too sick to get out of bed. So yeah, this game means a lot to me. It's my comfort activity, and one of the things that I love the most about it is the music. It is, in my opinion, one of the most gorgeous video game soundtracks. And yeah, it just captivated me, it fascinated me from the moment I first heard it. And quite early on, I realized that I was gonna have to give it my special kind of treatment. And what that means is, when I really love music, what happens is I take that piece of music and I take it apart and I put it back together in a way that enables me to then play it myself on my cello. I've done this for years now. I have a different channel where I've uploaded some arrangements of 70s rock stuff. So I've done some David Bowie, some some Electric Light Orchestra. And so it was quite natural for me to take this really special music from a game that means so much to me and yeah, to give it that same kind of treatment. And that is how my channel came to be, because I am a performer at heart. I know my way around a camera and around a microphone, and I know some video editing. So I thought, hey, why not? Why not do this? And also, you know, still sort of coming out of the pandemic, you don't really want to hang around people that much. There isn't even that much space to put, you know, 4+ cellos in one room and then record it and all of that. And who's got the time? So I just do it all by myself. And so I also decided to start uploading these things on YouTube, because that's just, you know, that's just the millennial urge to put everything on the internet. And this video is supposed to be a thank you to you to commemorate the milestone of 100 subscribers. At least that was what it was supposed to be, but by the time I got to actually filming it today, currently the channel is at 247. I didn't expect it to jump that much, because we reached the 100 subscribers milestone at the beginning of September, and now we're at the end of October, so wow. The best, most beautiful kind of surprise. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for enjoying my playing, for leaving those amazing comments. I'll talk about that a little more at the end of the video. For now though, I suggested that the 100 subscriber video should be an Ask Me Anything kind of video. And the question that I get the most, both on and off YouTube, is how do I make my covers? And I think that is an interesting thing to talk about, so that is what I'll do right now. First of all, like I said, I need to pick a piece of music, and that is usually something that I really like and that I feel works in the context of being for multiple cellos. Usually these are orchestral tracks, so pieces of music in the soundtrack that are played by mainly an orchestra. But I have also chosen some that are mostly played by bands. For example, Klee's theme is more of a, well, not big band, I guess maybe big band, is a band. Not really any string instruments in sight from what I remember. But it just needs to be something that isn't too electronic, because on the cello and me just, you know, playing on a regular acoustic cello, I don't have an electric cello. I would like to have an electric cello, to be honest though. But that's just something that those electric kinds of distortions I can only do to a certain degree. So I will usually avoid those kinds of tracks. But some pieces, it's like I hear them many, many times and then I'm like, oh, actually that would sound really nice. And then with some pieces it just hits like I'm struck by lightning. And one of those was Nuviette's theme. When I heard even just those few seconds that we got as a preview in the 4.1 live stream, I was like, yes, this needs to happen. I am primed. I was ready to start writing it the moment the demo dropped. And then when it did, and the first sort of solo melody, the da ya da 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 dee ya da 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 ya da 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 da. So that is actually played by a solo cello, and I knew it was meant to be. So one of those pieces that live rent-free in my head, I have to play them over and over and over again, that is what I will pick. Then the next step is to decide how many cellos to write it for. As you've noticed, I do anything between usually 4 to 8 cellos. I've done the langage des... I don't speak French, my French is terrible. The Fontaine background track, that's just one, in original, just one viola da gamba. So I did that just for solo cello, but that's an exception. Usually it'll be between 4 and 8 cellos. How do I decide that? Vibes. Honestly, I can't describe it any better. It obviously depends on how many voices I can already hear as I am listening to the piece. So if it's an orchestra and I notice that the wind instruments are doing something different to the string instruments, I'm like, all right, I need a string section and I need a wind section. So that will usually become 6 to 8. Also, if there's a piano involved and a bit of an orchestra, that will also usually be around 6, because the piano, I can't do a whole piano on my cello. I usually have to split it into 2 or 3 cellos. 1 piano equals 2 to 3 cellos. Yeah, vibes. Totally vibes. And once I've decided on that, that is when the real, both painstaking but also really fun part begins, for me anyway. The best way for me to describe my process is to say that I just take the music, I bring it up either on YouTube or on Spotify, and I listen to it over and over and over again in increments of a few seconds, sometimes even just 1 second, over and over, so that I can really pick out all of the different parts, because it all happens kind of in my head. So I have this talent where I am able to pick out different parts in one piece of music that are not the main and the bass part, so not the melody and the bass. So I am also able to hear those middling parts and to follow them with my hearing. So I'm able to focus on those and not get distracted by other things. I think that might partly be to do with sort of some neurodivergent stuff, because I'm one of those kinds of people who really doesn't like being in a cafe, because when somebody is talking next to me, I'm not able to tune those parts out. I listen to things and I can't stop listening to things that are not the foreground, so that are not the person who's sitting opposite me and talking to me. I also hear what's going on around me and I can't tune it out. In this context, it comes in very handy, because then I'm like, instead of sort of taking the main road, the melody, I'm like, no, actually let's go here and let's follow this part. And that is how I pick them out. I do start with the easiest, so usually first what I write is the melody, and then what I write next is the bass part, and then I do all of the middle stuff. If I really can't hear those middle parts because, you know, they're too quiet, they've been produced or mastered or whatever, sidebar, I'm not a professional at audio production at all, so I might use terms the wrong way. Again, a lot of what I do on this channel is vibes based. So yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, if a part is too quiet for me, too much in the background for me to hear, that is when I rely on my theory lessons that I remember from college. So I think about the harmonic context, and I'm like, okay, what am I still missing in my writing that is needed to really bolster everything and make it sound whole? And, you know, depending on the complexity of the piece, that takes sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. For example, my Midday Prospects arrangement was pretty simple to write because it was very clear cut. We have first violins, second violins, violas, cellos, double bass, and those are very distinct. And the rhythm wasn't terribly difficult, and yeah, so that was easy, super easy to write. On the other hand, something like Whisper of Domus Aurea or Farina's theme. Oh my god, Farina's theme was genuinely the most difficult piece both to write and perform. Because in Farina's theme, it's quick. There are all those really fast swing rhythms that are not written in classical harmony. It's very jazz inspired, which is something that I'm not very used to. So figuring out what I was missing and which part to put it in, and that was quite a lot of work, but I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. Call me a masochist, maybe. I don't know. I just really enjoy the process of it all coming together. And by the end of it, when I hit play in my notation program, by the way, I use Notion, which is not the note-taking app. There is another app called Notion by a company called PreSonus. They mostly do, again, audio production software and samples, but they have also released this software which is a score writing app, which is how I write my arrangements. I write it as actual music because then I have to read it from the music. That is how I learn to play it. And that app has a playback feature so I can check, did I get the harmonies right, are there any rhythmic mistakes, etc. And when I then hit play and it's coming together and I can sort of tell what it's going to sound like when I play it, I love that feeling. That is why I do what I do. By the way, as another side note in my process, another really fascinating thing for me is when I have to decide what I have to change about the music to make it playable on the cello, to make it sound good on the cello. My principle with these is that I want them to be as close to the original as I possibly can get them to be. But sometimes that's just not possible because there are instruments that have a higher register than the cello. There are instruments that have a much lower register than the cello, so the double bass will go much, much lower, and I can't physically go that low. Or same thing with violins. I can get quite high up into violin register, but not to that highest heights. Same with the piano. So sometimes I have to make an informed decision and just think about what is the next best option. Do I want it to still sound like the instrument? Oh, another thing, in Whisper of Domus Aurea, there is a lot of harp playing going on, and there's a middle part which drove me insane because I could not, it took me ages to figure out the time signature, because there was something really weird going on where it switched from a 12/8 into a 3/4 and then a 5/8 and then a 6/8 and a 5/8. And to add insult to injury, it was so high that the notes I had to figure out, and then, you know, a harp is plucked. I knew I can't, it sounds shit when I pluck that high because I need, you know, if I'm that high on my cello, then there's about this much string left to resonate with the plucking. Doesn't work. So I had to figure out, do I want it to be that high? What do I do if I want it to be that high? And in the end, I did decide, yes, we are sticking to that register. I managed to figure out all the notes somehow. And then I just decided I was gonna play very quiet, very short arco, so with the bow. Unfortunately, it sounds really nice. that one worked out. But that was one of those moments where I was just like quite stumped. But again, that's one of the things that I also enjoy about it. It is a challenge. It makes me think in ways that I don't usually have to think as a musician. And that specifically is something that I enjoy doing a lot. And so once that's all done and figured out, and we've found all of the mistakes and we've written in all of the dynamics, then I print it off, and then this is what it looks like. So all of this is my Farina arrangement of Farina's theme. So these are 8 parts, and as you can see, I also do a lot of note-taking within the music, so you will see me writing down different bowings and fingerings for the tricky parts. Yes, they're called fingerings. Don't leave me a comment about that. Don't be childish. I also write myself some instructions, for example, in this bit, which is the part near the end where we've got the singer. I just wanted to remind myself, you have to sing. You have to play this like you're singing. And I think it turned out that way, so that's nice. I take this music and then I practice it for however long it takes me to learn it, to learn to play it. Now, I'm quite fortunate in that I learn things very quickly as a musician, so I am able to keep up this sort of monthly rhythm of writing, practicing, recording, editing, etc. And I hope now at this point you're starting to understand why it takes me a whole month to prepare one of these, because as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a teacher, so well, it's not yet full time, but I do have quite a lot of hours during the week, and all of this, the writing and the practicing, happens in the downtime. Sometimes I literally practice during my breaks in my teaching room, because that happens in a school. Oh gosh, I hope nobody minds me doing that. But I, as I've said many times before, I genuinely love doing it. And once I set up the camera to record all of the parts, that is kind of the most exciting thing for me, because that is when I go into performer mode. And I have been playing the cello since I was about 5.5, I think, 5.5 or 6. And I'm now 33. So I've literally been doing it all of my life. And my learning and my studying at college, etc., was very performance focused. So I'm used to playing recitals, playing concerts, playing auditions, competitions, that sort of stuff. And I've become quite comfortable with it, and I like that adrenaline. Does that sound weird? I don't know. But I enjoy doing it. I guess just a couple of things about how I record. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but you know, somebody might still learn something. As I write my arrangements, I also include a click track, which basically is what keeps me on time. And that is what then makes it easier to put together all the different parts and stack them on top of each other and make sure they really do exactly line up. And if you've noticed that I've got an earpiece in my right ear whenever I record, that is what I'm listening to. I'm listening to the click track, and I do actually have a system to which part I record first. I will always record the bass part first, so the lowest one. So the bass line in every single piece of music or song or whatever is always the harmonic foundation, and that is really important because that is where you build up the intonation. So that is how you make sure everything is in tune. If I were to start with one of the middle parts or the melody part, it would get really, really hard actually to then make sure everything is in tune together. Especially on an instrument like the cello, where you don't have frets like on a guitar, you don't have keys like on a piano, where being just 1 millimeter further down the fingerboard means you're going to be out of tune. So it's really important to have a very good ear for this and to set myself up to have a good foundation. That is why the bass part comes first. And then usually I will go from bottom to top, with some exceptions. because sometimes there will be a bass-like part in one of the sort of higher numbered parts. So let's say I have 8, I'm coming back to Farina's arrangement, where I recorded part 8 first, then I did part 7, and then I jumped up to part 4, because there was some important, yes, there was actually a bass-like part for some of it, and also some important main parts that I needed to make everything else make sense. Then I went back to part 6, then 5, then I did 2, 3 and 1, I think. Not sure. But that is how I will layer it. And in between the recording of each of these parts, I stop and I transfer my audio files, just the audio, to my computer, and then I put together the click and the audio that I just recorded, and then I take that file and listen to it as I record the next part. And this is how I get not just that time element of having that click running and matching the click, but also of hearing the harmony of what I've already played and being able to match my intonation to that. And also it helps with phrasing, because again, harmonic context helps a lot with phrasing, because you have harmonies that are naturally more relaxed within the context of one key, and you have harmonies that have more tension, and usually the music sort of pulls towards that tension, and the tension is the most important thing, and then it relaxes again as you get to the what you would call in classical music the tonic. So the first step in a scale, which is, oh, it's getting complicated. I'm not great at explaining music theory. I did it in college, but that was ages ago. I have retained enough for me to know what I have to do as a musician, but explaining it to somebody else, bit hard. There are other channels that do it really well. I can leave some resources actually in the description box. So, oh yeah, one last thing about when I record. A lot of you have noticed that I try to do themed outfits. It was most obvious in my Farina video with the hat. Yes, that is actually Farina's hat. I ordered it from Doki Doki Cosplay because I was like, it would actually be fun, wouldn't it? And then it was just like £15, I think, or 20. And that was a steal. So I just had to. And now I've got Farina's hat. And I'll find another few videos to use it for, because it would be a shame not to use it again. But when I don't have these obvious props, usually what I will do is what I call Genshin bounding. So I don't know if you've heard of Disney bounding, which is when you go to a Disney park, you are not allowed to dress up exactly like one of the characters. So you're basically not allowed to go in cosplay, because they don't want other visitors to think that you are one of the cast members. But what you can do is dress up in, for example, a color scheme that fits a specific character. So that is what I do. I don't have a terribly massive wardrobe. I don't have the money to buy all of those cosplays. If I had the money, I probably would do it, because that would be really fun. Like playing in cosplay for a specific character, I would love that. So what I do, just sort of out of my wardrobe, is I grab colors and certain pieces of clothing that I think fit the character. So for Nuviette's theme, I have this really lovely light blue, sort of longer blazer, I think it is. And that, I thought that looked really good with a dark blue shirt. When I do music that's region specific, it's not character specific, but region specific, I try to either dress in the color scheme of that region or add things that remind me of that region. So for Mondstadt, for example, I have this lovely, I bought at a con from an artist, I'm gonna link that below as well. I bought this lovely ribbon that I use in almost all of my videos. It's like a venti / animo designed ribbon that I use as a sort of bow tie-ish kind of thing. And that is really fun. I really enjoy looking at my wardrobe and being like, okay, how can I make this look Genshin-ish? And actually, the jacket that I wore in Farina's video was a gift from the universe. I found it the day before I started recording in a thrift shop. So literally one of a kind. I only went in there because a friend was visiting, and we kind of were like, okay, we're going to go to all of these fun places here in town, and I didn't even want to buy anything, but I saw it and it fit me, like that one piece, and I didn't have much of a choice, did I? And it looked amazing in the video. I think that was my best outfit yet. Right? That's basically my process. I mean, after that, it's just a matter of transferring it all to my computer, lining up the audio and the video. I record the audio separately, so I have to put that together, which is always a bit nerve-wracking. And then I put it all into DaVinci and I line everything up. I figure out the measurements for how I'm gonna segment the screen, fiddle with the audio a bit, do a little bit of color and light correction, and then I upload it on YouTube. So I hope that answered some of your questions about how I do what I do. I hope that was interesting as well. And if you do still have any other questions, anything that I left unanswered, or something that's come up in the process of me talking about myself and doing what I do, then please leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, I knew that anything Genshin related does really well on the internet right now, and has been for the last few years, because Genshin is just so huge. So when I decided to do this, when I decided to make a channel just for my Genshin arrangements, I knew it was probably gonna grow at a good pace, but I genuinely did not expect to, first of all, grow like that in a short amount of time after establishing a regular schedule. But also the wonderful and thoughtful and heartfelt comments that you leave me mean so much to me. It's not that common, I think, anymore to have genuine comments on YouTube. You know, the bot situation, and just in general, it's not that encouraged anymore, because people watch on phones really often, and I think leaving a comment is usually just sort of an afterthought. So the fact that you take the time not just to listen to me, but also to then express to me how it made you feel, yeah, I can't thank you enough. Genuinely, thank you. And because, as I said, I'm a performer, and I grew up thinking I was gonna have a career as a performer. Did not happen. I'm a teacher now, which I enjoy so much. Don't get me wrong, I love teaching. I love it so much more than anything that I've done as a performer up until then. But now to have this, and to imagine so many of you in one room, like 100, 247, that's not, in YouTube numbers, that's not a lot, but in real people numbers, having over 200 people sitting in one room and listening to you and then applauding and, you know, coming up to you and talking to you about it, that is incredible. And you are allowing me to have that experience that I didn't think I was gonna have. I say it a lot when I respond to your comments. I say it a lot in my community posts, and yes, it's repeating myself, but that's just because every time I get a comment, every time I look at my channel, every time I upload something new and get new reactions, I can't believe that I'm so lucky to have that. So again, thank you so much. Onwards and upwards. November, I'm going to upload Hu Tao's theme. I've already written it, it's already printed off, I just need to start practicing it. And I will also upload a new schedule for December, January and February. It's still looking good for my monthly upload schedule, so I will stick to that as long as I can. If you have any suggestions, any wishes, something that you would really like me to cover, please feel free to leave that in the comments as well. I'm already thinking about what can I do for my 500 subscriber milestone, for the 1000 subscriber milestone. I can't believe the 1000 subscriber milestone is actually attainable looking at it right now. It like next year probably it's gonna happen, which I would love to do something really special for that. Maybe do sort of an audience poll of what you would like me to do. If you want me to cover something that isn't Genshin, that could be quite fun. There are other games I really like and where I'm familiar with the music, so I might do a poll for that. And I also have an idea for a sort of lore kind of video where for ages I've been meaning to talk about the lore implications of Nuviette's theme. So it's not a music theory kind of analysis, it's an analysis of the structure and how it pertains to what we know about Genshin lore. This is where I out myself as a lore head. I play the game for the lore and I love it. That is something, if that's something you would like to see me do, I could do that for the 500 subscriber milestone. That would be fun. And I think I have prattled on for long enough. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and I will see you in my next video with Hu Tao's theme. Ooh. Until then, I hope you have a lovely morning, day, evening, night, wherever you are. Stay safe and be kind to yourself. And I'll see you soon. Bye!